This video clip is a discussion about your position paper. The position paper is the initial and most important component of your self-instructional product in this course. It's the rationale, and it becomes the documentation for your self-instructional product. Your position paper is a dry run. The rationale, it's a developmental process for your self-instructional product. The position paper should have an introduction. It should have problem statement, needs analysis, and analysis about the current situation, the ideal situation that you're looking for, general goals of the prototype that you're going to develop, objectives and tests, learner characteristics, and something about the instructional setting. To get started, your first step is to think about a self-instructional product for the course more as a student work in progress, a trial mock-up to your below-average students. A self-instructional product for them to use at home, their very own personalized system of instruction, not a finished commercial product. Focus the design more on below-average students and consider replacing static web pages, lessons from departmental guides or textbooks or internet from a cell phone app. Check the apps for iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry's apps as well. BlackBerry App World has some. Your self-instructional product for this course is not meant to be informational, like a YouTube lecture about procedures to use a product or platform. There's plenty of those already. But rather an original educational, self-instructional drill or tutorial that's not for everyone, rather for a subset of a population, with learning objectives in A, B, C, D format, sample content that adheres to the decal, provides opportunities to practice, partial feedback and hints on the practice using temporal speech cues from the SSF model of instructional design, tests that match the stated objectives, outcomes, and an answer key. Most students taking this course usually cover some, not all, of the standard aspects in their position paper for developing a self-instructional product. Usually some, but not all, of the decal factors are missing. The L in decal usually needs some attention. Verbs for learning objectives are different from your course objectives or teaching objectives. Verbs for learning objectives should be stated in an A, B, C, D format and categorized as procedural, that is an intellectual skill, knowledge, which is verbal information learning, or strategic, which is cognitive strategy. Intellectual skill objectives have 3 levels, written in the following order: to discriminate or distinguish between, name or list, for example; to learn a concept, that is describe the characteristics of something; and then to use a rule, which is to demonstrate the principle of. Next, write a verbal information learning objectives, such as recall an important fact or summarize in your own words. Then write one cognitive strategy objective, such as devise a plan or predict an outcome, figure out a way to do something. To initiate the strategic thinking, arrange them inside a flow chart or table. Finally, these various kinds of learning objectives should be placed on the first page of the print-based instruction or the persistent web frame. On the next page, teach them by providing some information with a question or strategy or worked example. Then on the next page, present some practice questions or problems. On the following page, provide partial feedback on the practice with follow-up question to keep them on topic. And finally, some specifics about the modality design, that is, at least one function for sound prompting that would be prescribed for the self-instructional product as suggested in our readings. Again, the position paper is the initial and most important component of your self-instructional product, in my view. It's the rationale and becomes the documentation for your self-instructional product. Important, originality. The choice of what content you develop is not as important as what and how you propose to present the content. So for example, if you propose to build a self-instructional product for kids who never get a particular concept, that's a good position paper. Important also is the decal, the context of the self-instructional environment. Important, learning outcomes on the ABCD format, how to proceed. How you proceed now with designing your self-instructional product depends on the learning context, the DECL. And if their need is to see and hear brand new information or to practice previously presented material, usually in a classroom. If they need brand new information, it's called a tutorial, in which you present the first 4 events of instruction, let's say in Gagne's 9 general steps of instruction for learning. However, if they need practice and feedback on previously presented material, then you make only the last 5 events of instruction in Gagne's general steps of instruction for learning. So let's look at that. Number 1, gain the attention. For example, present a good problem, a new situation, use a multimedia advertisement, ask questions. This helps to ground the lesson and to motivate. Number 2, describe the goal. State what students will be able to accomplish and how they will be able to use the knowledge. Give a demonstration if appropriate. This allows the students to frame the information, treat it better. Number 3, stimulate recall of the prior knowledge. For example, remind the student of prior knowledge relevant to the current lesson, such as fact or rule or procedure or some skills. Show how knowledge is connected. Provide the student with a framework that helps learning and remembering. Tests that can be included as well. Present the material to be learned. For example, text, graphics, a simulation, figures, pictures, sound. Chunk the information. Avoid memory overload. Generate recall. Provide guidance. That's number 5. Provide guidance for learning. Presentation of the content is different from instructions on how to learn. Use a different channel, for example, side boxes. Elicit performance practice. Let the learner do something with the newly acquired behavior. Practice skills or apply knowledge, at least. Provide information feedback. Show correctness of the trainee's response. Analyze learner's behavior. Maybe present a good step-by-step solution to the problem. Assess performance if the lesson has been learned. Also give sometimes general progress information. And finally, try to enhance retention and transfer to what we call the reference situation or the actual situation on the job. Inform the learner about similar problem situations. Provide additional practice. Put the learner in a transfer situation, on the job, so to speak. Maybe let the learner review the lesson. I hope this moves things along for you a little.